Okay, so let's say you're at the place where you have done your discernment work, your self-reflection, and really made a decision that you wanted to go forward with the divorce. I want you to first notice two things emotionally, because we could go into the to-do list of all the things you've got to do, but I want to focus on your emotions because I think you being very cognizant of your emotional state and how that's affecting you all along the way is going to be key to how you get through this. Because we can go into intense periods in our brain where we're not really addressing our emotional state. And then we make poor decisions. We don't actually function very well. And we are so affected by moving forward that it's paralyzing. Or we're so angry that we're just like not able to see clearly. So I want you to take stake and stop right now. Firstly, let's look at the stages of grief. Where are you? Denial, anger, sadness, depression, bargaining, or acceptance. And I have talked about these stages a whole lot. I want you to just to emphasize right now that a lot of that is what your brain can handle. So you might find yourself like in bargaining, like if only this would happen, I could stay in my marriage, or that if that person changed, it would work out, or if I sacrifice myself a little bit more, it will be okay. Then maybe you're in acceptance, like, no, I've already done all this, can't do it anymore. Then let's back up into depression. I can't move. I feel so sad. I'm crying all the time. Anger. It's a good emotion because it brings you into action. It makes you do your next step, but you got to make sure that it's not out of hand. And then denial. I don't want to look at this. Did you notice that I jumped around when I was telling you about these stages because they're not linear? So just remind yourself of that. There's also a difference of how you feel based on if you initiated it or if the other person did. And sometimes the initiator, you're both the initiator and the recipient of the separation. And that is because sometimes the initiator is actually a behavior, an addiction, or a mental illness. And so that's something to really think about. It's sometimes nothing really about you, it's something that you have to do, and the other person is incapable of actually following through. So you have to do that too. So I really want you to notice your emotional state and identify, are you talking about this with anybody? Do you have confidants? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a support group? If you don't, you should get into some kind of supportive environment, so you can take stock of yourself all along the way. That is critical. I often advise my couples who are really seriously in this place to look at possibly a temporary separation and continuing to look and work on the relationship. Sometimes we have these discoveries and they've been buildups over the years, and we're like, whoa, this is really impossible to change with this person around me, or they are going to struggle. We're going to struggle with our interactions and our dynamics because we're still living in the same house on top of each other. So a temporary separation sometimes really opens everybody's eyes about what the next step is. And it helps you actually imagine what it's going to be like to be separate from that person. So aside from that, those are the emotional aspects. Then there's all the to-do list. So we start slowly with the to-do list, right? We try to first figure out, can we talk about some of these decisions with our partner? Or we are incapable of talking about them because they make us so upset. We have to sell the house. We've got to move. Our kid is going to be with us half of the time. All those things sometimes are just impossible to wrap your head around. So get a professional that you can sit with. Sometimes there's people that are paralegals, um, that are co-parenting therapists, that are mediators that focus on a certain aspect of the divorce. For example, the parent settlement agreement. I'm just helping you make decisions about the kids first and then plan all the logistical stuff. So there's different people that you'll try to have involved on different levels. So there's sort of the small, medium, large part of getting a divorce, in terms of expense, whether you go paralegal, try to do a lot of it yourself, go into a mediator who's either a legal lawyer mediator or just a mediator who's certified as a mediator. You decide how complicated and complex your situation is, or you both have separate lawyers and maybe even do a form of collaborative divorce where you have a team of people around you supporting you. This is all based on cost, and I'll reference a few sites that you can take a look at to get some more information. And then there's documents, the budget that you're currently living in, the budget that you will be living in. How will you both have a similar standard of living, especially if you have kids? And what's your support system like to help you through this? So then there's a gathering of paperwork, maybe having a financial advisor to look at how you're going to split assets. And then there's just talking about one thing at a time with your divorce person that you're having as your professional. And that's also who's going to file. So all of these questions will be answered over time. And there's no like immediacy to divorce because, especially in, well, most states, but in the state of California, I'll reference, is that it takes 6 months to a day to actually have a divorce process. And since COVID, the process is a lot longer. So there's time in there, and filing for the divorce just sets that clock. So remember, all of these decisions will be made. Get information. You'll see information listed below, but this is a guide to help you start thinking about the things you need to be thinking about.